Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, comics we want to read, and everything in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. Today we are doing the true crime story of the terrible Axeman of New Orleans. I don't know if he's actually called... Is he actually called the terrible Axeman, or is it just the Axeman of New Orleans?
I think it is the terrible Axeman.
I don't know. I just thought that's what Rick Geary called this book to make it like, like a extra fun.
Give it extra.
Yeah.
It's like you give it that little extra oomph of like, oh, this is really important. Pay attention.
Yeah, like what are those words? Adjectives.
Yeah.
You gotta add adjectives to make it cool. But yeah, so this is a book. It's a comic by Rick Geary, who we've done already. If you go all the way back,
long time ago,
episode 3 of the podcast, we did another Rick Geary book called "The Butcher of Chicago."
Yeah,
is that what it's called? The Butcher of Chicago or something?
It's Treasury of Victorian Murders, and it's the Beast of Chicago.
The Beast of Chicago. That's what it
Beast.
is. And that was covering the true horror story of the serial killer H.H. Holmes. Which is one of the most fascinating, most fucked up serial killers of America.
It really was. I don't think I had heard of that one until we read it.
Yeah, you had said, like, I never heard of this before. I'm like, holy shit. And I said, I only heard this from the Supernatural episode. And I'm like, is this guy real? And he was. And I was like, that's terrifying. But, yeah, so we decided to pick another one, and we just kind of randomly picked because I owned this one, but I hadn't read it in a long time, so I actually didn't remember anything about this. And then they actually mentioned this in another pop culture show, which was the horror story. Was it American Horror Stories? So in the 3rd season of American Horror Stories, I believe, there's a New Orleans episode with the witch.
The whole season kind of takes place down there.
Yes, but it's like the witches.
Oh yeah, there's
season or whatever, right?
Madame Lalaurie.
Yeah, and so in that they have a guy. Oh man, I can't remember this guy's name, but he's always like a vampire or like
what's that?
A character actor dude. He's always like a bad guy though, and he plays the Axeman or the Jazzman. I can't remember what they call him in the show, but it's supposed to be this guy, this Axeman who kills people with an axe, who also likes jazz a lot apparently. And so,
and part of the reason we also don't know the name is because we'll spoil just a little bit on this is that they never truly know and or catch this person that they can prove.
Yeah, they never 100% do. I mean, a lot of people are put in prison and or killed for this, but no one actually knows if it was actually him or not because no one knew how to solve crimes back then, so it's not the best.
Yeah, there's
not
no
the best
DNA,
forensics. Yeah, there might have been a thumbprint, but probably not because they didn't dust for prints or anything. Yeah. So like we said, this is by Rick Geary. I believe I'm trying to remember when this one was written. I want to say it was like written in 2005 or something like that. I don't know when these all came out. Mid 2000s, we'll say. But that's when all the Treasury of Victorian Murders came out, and then Treasury of 20th Century Murder. This is a 20th Century Murder, so this is like the sequel to those first
series,
books. So, yeah, these ones all take place in the 20th century, hence the name, and then the other ones took place in the 19th century, which was the Victorian age. So, yeah, but this one, the first murder happened on May 23rd, 1918. And that's like where the book actually starts from an interesting part. It gives you all the history of knowledge.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it kind of goes through like everything from like the original settlement, then like the kind of
how
like
we got
wars happened through there, and then like how it kind of transferred around. And actually, one thing that is pointed out that I didn't know when we bought it from Napoleon for the Louisiana Purchase, I didn't realize he had just gotten it back like a year before that.
Yeah, like he got it back from Spain.
Yeah, so he was like he was basically because he needed money. So
yeah.
I did not remember that if I didn't know.
I love that they show how much of the Louisiana Purchase actually got us or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like it wasn't just Louisiana. It was like the tip of Louisiana to all the way up to like Idaho, basically.
Yeah, it's a huge piece of land.
Yeah, it was giant. So and probably into Canada a bit too. I don't know where the border was at that time, but yeah. So Yeah, it was pretty crazy. They did all the history, which was cool. For some reason, I didn't even put this together because we actually went to New Orleans a couple years ago and we did like the tours, and they didn't. I don't remember them saying this, but so it's not just French. And it was cool. They showed like where the Creoles came from, and then where the like
Cajun.
the Cajuns and the Creoles, like the different sides or whatever. And then they said like because Spain took it over for a couple of years, that's where like all the cool architecture comes from, because they apparently like put their like or not, no, sorry, what was Spanish? I don't know.
Ole.
Oh yeah, ole. There you go. So they would do it. Yeah, so they put their little flair in all the architecture, which I noticed while I was there, but I didn't think about it as Spanish. So that was cool. I thought it was just French that was there. So
No, it's a good New Orleans is a cool place. It's got and this gives you that, if you don't know, that background of like the rich history of not only being like pretty much one of the main, if not the biggest central port for
the Gulf and all
the
that, yeah.
Gulf, and for the whole territory here for years and years, and then like the French occupation, the Spanish occupation, and then American, that blend of everything there is just so rich and vibrant.
Not to mention all the like slaves and all the people from the Caribbean that came up through there too.
Yep.
So you got all that mixed together, and it's a vibrant culture, and that's how you get jazz. All right.
when you mix all that up in the pot, maybe you got a stew going, and you got some jazz.
Yeah, you got jazz. That's what
jazz stew.
So yeah, this is where jazz came from, and I thought that was cool. I thought it was cool they threw that in. Like the first chapter is just all about the history of this place and like where it is and the map and stuff. For anybody who doesn't know, I thought this one was more, because it's not so like, and then he murdered these people, and then he murdered these people, and this like haunted house that has rooms that don't go anywhere and shit. I thought this was more like kid friendly. Like I would hand this one to like young, like a tween or something, and be like, this is a cool like book.
You're interested in like, oh, like there's like,
you like true crime or whatever, you know? Stuff, yeah. Like it's not too graphic because it's black and white. The like scenes, they don't show any like violence like to the heads or anything. Like, they don't show any like straight on like axe hitting stuff. They'll just show like
a shadow of an axe coming.
Yeah, and then like lumps of people in a bed with black stuff on their face or whatever. You know, like, so there is some, you know, obviously like a little bit of violence.
It's implied, but you can't.
It's implied, yeah. There you go. But I would be like, hey, you like true crime and history and like you're interested in stuff, here's this book or whatever. I thought it would be a little bit more I guess less like messed up than H.H. Holmes, just because he is, because we know who he is. Maybe
that's part of it. Yeah, not fully knowing this, and this also took place only roughly, the murders really only took place within
2 years.
Yeah, just
it's from like 1918 to 1920 basically.
Yeah.
So,
and there's a total of 12 murders.
Yeah. So not as much as H.H. Holmes.
No.
So he didn't build a murder apartment complex and then like make people or have people stay there and then, you know, wear their skins at night or whatever the hell. I can't remember what he did, but a bunch of stuff like that. So yeah, but the Axeman did not do that. Apparently, and I thought this was interesting. The Axeman just really, really didn't like grocers, and specifically Italian grocers.
That's what it seemed. That's kind of what it seemed like, because the common theme for a lot of this is that I think like 9 of the 12 victims were Italian, and like 10 or 11 of them were grocers too. So yeah,
it was crazy. Well, no, it was 7 of them were Italian.
Oh, 7,
and 9 of them were grocers.
That's right.
So like, I think maybe the other people might have been either not murders of the same guy or something, but they like lumped him in because they don't know how to do forensics or something. Or,
and there were similar enough murders that's the thing, is a lot of the murders.
I mean, it's New Orleans, so murders.
Yeah, 10 of these 12 murders were committed with an axe, and those axes were owned by the person who died.
Right, and if that sounds weird, like you think axe might not be what does he carry an axe around? How does he hide it? Well, he didn't have to, because like John just said, everybody had an axe in the 20s because they all had like wood burning stoves and shit to cook stuff with. So like
chop your own firewood.
Yeah, so everybody had an axe or a hatchet of some kind to like have wood, or at least as a tool for something, you know, to work on your house or whatever, you know. So this isn't your modern society, you know. So Yeah, a hatchet and or an axe is something that everybody had probably in their house back then, and
Yeah, they almost all of these, they always found the murder weapon, and it was almost always owned by the person
yeah,
who got.
which also makes you think like, well, some of these murders could have been, like, hey, I hate my husband, or hey, I hate my wife, and like
I saw
this
murder
guy's
like
been
this,
going
yeah.
around killing people with an axe, and the axes are always the axes of the people. So if you killed your wife or your husband with an axe, and then like hit yourself in the leg with it or something, like he got away or whatever.
Oh, no. I
Then
didn't see his face.
yeah, then like, or it was someone else or whatever. Then you could probably get away with it back then, and it wouldn't be too hard. So I could see some of these maybe being that too or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. Some of them felt like that for sure. And then also another thing I thought was fun that they mentioned in this was like people were speculating like, well, because like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde just came out, so it was like maybe he's one of these dual personality peoples or whatever, like because psychology hadn't really come up yet too much, so this is like a new idea about split personalities, and someone who could be completely normal in normal society could just turn into a madman at night when the moon is right or whatever, and like fucking go crazy. And
Yeah, they were saying some people thought maybe it was phases of the moon. And
yeah, like weird shit like that. So it was funny, but I think what it was is they just hated Italians. All right, they hated Italians and they hated grocers, and specifically those two things together.
Yep. Some Italian man sold me some bad produce,
bad
some bad
salami.
fruit, and gosh darn it, I never will forgive them. Matter of fact, I'm probably gonna murder some.
Yes. So we're not really going to go through every murder on this one just because they're pretty much the same thing. Where it's like Italian grocer wakes up, or like someone in his family wakes up and then like, hey honey, where are you at?
Or someone finds them if they happen to kill the people there.
Yeah, and so someone will walk in and be like, oh my god, or someone. The best is like a lot of these people, and I was surprised they weren't killed. They were just like maimed with an axe and then like left for dead, and then they weren't dead. I'm like, how hard is it to kill someone with an axe while they're sleeping?
Yeah, there probably would have been a higher count, but like, yeah, not like
There was multiple times in this where like someone would knock on the door and be like, "Hey Jim, your grocery store needs to be open. You're sleeping late or something." And then Jim would come to the door and be like, "Ah, my head feels weird." And then there'd be like a whole like gash in his head from like where the axe went into his face or whatever. And they're like, "Oh my god, Jim, you got to go to the doctor." And then like, they would live. And he'd be like, how hard is it to like murder someone with an axe? Apparently they didn't make their axes very good.
Yeah, they were.
Well,
I figured they're chopping a bunch of wood, so they're not always super sharp. They're a little blunt.
that just makes it worse if it's not sharp.
Well, that's what I said. Like, so instead of like cutting down deep, maybe it just laid a gash enough to bleed a whole
That's
bunch.
not how axes work. They just split. All right, they just crush and split. So yeah, it's no good. Yeah, blunt axe is probably worse than a sharp axe, I would think. But yeah, then you just have a club. I mean, this is a club with an axe shaped face or whatever. So, but yeah, for some reason this guy did not do a good job of making sure they were dead.
We should say I think this is like 8 of these murders too. He gained access to these houses by chiseling away part of the door frame.
Yeah, I was trying to figure this out. They would go through a panel in the door. Like, so you have frame and panel doors, and the panels are thinner generally than the main door structure. So he would, I don't understand how he chiseled.
Spend his time chiseling it.
He's just sitting outside this door. Yeah, how do you tap, or how do you?
Every time the bird, tink.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Ta-da, ta-da. It was just like, I don't know what he's doing, but somehow he was able to chisel through the door panel nice and easy, and then squeeze through the door panel. So me and John have a theory. I think this was a child who was angry about the grocer or something, or I don't know what it was.
He wanted some candy.
He wanted some candy, and they caught him. He went to shoplift at each of these stores, and they caught him, and they kicked him out. But this kid, me and John think did it. He wasn't strong enough to swing the axe hard enough to kill people sometimes. And then he was able to fit through the door, and he was able to sit by a door where people wouldn't notice or pay attention while he chiseled away at one of the panels. Yeah. So So I don't know.
They're just like, oh, that kid's over there drawing on a door or something.
It's like City of God, where there's just children running around murdering people. Or something, yeah. Yeah. I don't understand some of that, like how this happened, somewhat, but it was very interesting to like how this like how these murders happened and like what people thought happened. There was two ladies named Rose that killed. This was the only confusing part of the book, I thought. There's two ladies that are both named Rose, have different last names, but they didn't say the names all the time, the last names, that had people that were killed by the Axeman, and each one of those ladies did stupid shit. Yeah. So I thought they were the same lady. I'm like, this lady is a fucking asshole. but yeah, we should say the first one, that like kind of this lady had the most through story in the whole book, but her name was Rose Cortamiglias. Cortamiglias. Gotta say it faster. Really.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say that wrong. Sorry.
The Italian, I think one was Italian.
Cortamiglias. Yeah, they were all Italian. So I don't know. We should say, how would you say it, John?
Well, no, that's what I was saying. Maybe there were so many Italian characters that maybe I don't remember.
The Giordanos, the Cortamiglias. Is that how we say it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We'll go with that. And so when you say it like that with the cool accent, it makes it a lot easier to say.
True.
But basically, so Rose and her husband used to work for these guys named the Giordanos, and they worked at their store as managers. And so the Giordanos, I guess, were like, hey, you know what? We don't need managers. We're just going to do it ourselves. So they fired him. And so the Cortamiglias were like, hey, you know what? Fuck you.
We'll open our own store.
We're going to open our own store. Three doors down. We're going to open our own store. And then they've had like a feud ever since then with stores. I don't know what they would do. Like, hey, they got apples priced at 3 cents or 2 cents. Like, I don't know what they would do, but they would just, fight each other, and they hated them. So when her husband she woke up and her husband was dead one morning with axe blows to the head, she was like, I saw him, and it was one of those guys. And then those guys went to court and got blamed. Luckily, they didn't get blamed for the rest of the murders. I don't know how they didn't string them all together.
No, but they definitely were, and it was funny because they were also like that. I bet it was the son. She said that she saw the son for sure, and the son is like 6 foot something, and it's like,
but he's 17 as well.
And there's no way that guy squeezed through your wooden door panel, man.
Yeah.
But they're like, nah, it was him for sure.
Yeah. She was like, there's no doubt. I totally saw him, and his dad was probably there too. I saw 2 people.
Yeah, I saw 2 people.
So this like dad and son go to jail, go to court, get convicted. The son gets on the death penalty. So they're like, he's sitting there on death row or whatever. The dad gets life in prison. And then it just leaves it hanging there and cuts to the other victim. So we go through a couple other victims. Then there was another lady named Rose who she said like, oh, this guy named Joseph Mumfree killed my husband.
Yeah.
With an axe or whatever. And she went 2,000 miles to LA from
I see somehow like figured out part of the investigation, because somehow this Joseph Mumfree's story kind of aligns too with all of the axe murders, because there was an original kind of axe murder before the ones that we're currently talking about. Like, it was something similar where some guy killed several people with an axe.
Yeah.
And this guy was in jail, Joseph Mumfree. He got out, and at that time, right about the time he got out, these murders started happening. And then there was a time where he got caught for something like petty.
And that's when the murders
stopped. And the murders stopped for a bit. And then when he got back out, there also murders were started again. And then a month after this Rose's husband was murdered, he moved to L.A. and the murders also stopped
yeah.
There were no more axe
So
murders.
she figured it out. She was like, I think this guy's the bad guy. Yeah. So she goes over there and
she follows him 2,000 miles from
Louisiana,
to L.A.
And she just shoots him in the street.
Shoots him in the street.
She's like, hey. He's like, huh? She's like, bam. Shoots him. He's dead. And she goes to court for murder, and this is, I guess, when they're like, women can't be evil or something. So they're like, she did it, obviously. We give her 10 years, and then she got 3.
Yeah, and then she got 3 for a good
behavior
or something, and then disappeared when she got out of jail. Like no one ever, apparently heard from her again.
Yeah, and then so that was like, wow, that's like crazy. I thought that was the same Rose though. That's why I got confused.
Well, and then on the same page, the story picks back up of the other Rose.
Yeah, so this Rose, the Rose, the original Rose, who said the Giordano's killed her husband. She comes back at the end of this other Rose's story on the same page.
And part of that is because they thought her husband he was so bad, they thought I guess he was in a coma or something. They thought he was going to die. He ends up not dying.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, they didn't attack us. And they're like, are you sure? And she's like, well, what did my wife say? And she was saying like, yo, yeah, no, it still was them. I know. And then had a change of.
They said she had a vision. She said she had a vision from some saint.
Yeah.
That's what Saint McGillicuddy showed me. I don't know the saint.
Showed me that I was doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, so I need to clear my conscience. So she confessed that she made up that there was them. So luckily, I don't know, I guess back in the day, not only did they have swift justice, like to a detriment where they would kill someone, like hang them or whatever, like mob justice sometimes, they would also have quick, like, we fucked up. Sorry.
Yeah, you're free to go.
So they just
freed
these
forever
guys.
now.
Yeah, they freed these guys. Luckily, one of them was on death row, and he didn't, or he had, was convicted and was sentenced to death. He didn't die. They didn't kill him yet. So luckily, these father and son were freed, and that was like the main big, like, holy shit, like what the fuck. But those are like the 2 stories that really stuck out to me of like the people that got either people murdered by the Axemen or in comas and then came out of it. But yeah, like so many people got into like comas or just like woke up and were like, oh, my head kind of hurts.
Yeah, like they went in and like if there were multiple people in the family, the kids might have died, but then they didn't quite kill the husband or something.
Yeah.
One of the things I forgot, I did want to mention the other Rose that went and killed Joseph Mumfree. Part of the reason that it was also like weird is like when they found her and she was talking, she was like, my husband died. When the police were there, they were like, her demeanor was very like calm, and she was like, I don't know, some guy came and killed. So that was the other thing about that Rose was like, maybe
she kill her
husband and then go kill this guy to like somehow make it seem like that she would never get caught. I don't know. It was, and then because she disappeared, it was a little interesting extra bit of like, this lady is not she is not all there.
Yeah, well, she did kill someone in the street. So, yeah,
cold blood. So.
I mean, this was not that far from the Wild West, but still, it was like 20 years from the Wild West. Or sorry, no, 40 years from the Wild West. But still, like, it's still pretty not common to just shoot someone in the middle of L.A. Well, I mean, L.A. is known for
maybe L.A. Well, and going through this, like they talked about a lot of the different things that kind of were driving forces at the time too. Is like, well, a lot of them were Italian immigrants. Maybe there was a mafia thing.
Yeah, they said
part of this.
The Black Hand.
Yeah,
the Black Hand Mafia came around and was threatening people and stuff.
And one of the cool things as far as like story development in this is that when the first like 5 or 6 had happened, like there was a real hysteria in town. And, like, so this is when people started.
They're killing us.
They started buying like gun sales, like went through the roof, and people started putting bars on their windows, and so they really that home defense really.
Hey, I did. I would do it. I'd go buy whatever. I'd buy those little Derringers, those little ones that they put on their like garter belt or whatever. Just but keep them in like every pocket. You have those little 22s or whatever that they would flip open. I would totally do that. Whatever guns they had back then, I don't know.
Yeah, but it was funny to see as far as like the hysteria built around it, like because they really could not figure out who was doing all of this, and so everybody was like, I don't know what to do. We're just gonna buy guns and defend ourselves. Like,
yeah. One interesting thing I thought of this from this case was there was I guess a letter written that was supposed to be from the jazz band. They don't, or I mean the Axeman. They don't know if he was actually like from him or not, but they're like, this is like the most bullshit thing ever. The guy's like, haha, you haven't captured me yet, and you won't, but I will strike again or whatever. And he says like, on this night, this specific night though, I'm gonna go killing, and if you are playing jazz like on a record player in your house, and I go by and I was gonna kill you, I won't kill you. And then amazingly on that night, no murders happened.
Yeah.
Like, you can't say that. You can't do that, because you could be a fake person writing this letter, and then all you got to do is not kill someone on that night, and then it's proven that this is the right murderer.
Going back to our kid theory, maybe that kid just really liked jazz and his folks never played it for him, and the Italian grocer pissed him off, and he's like, well, if everybody can play jazz this one night, maybe that'll calm my...
You know, mean a thing if I ain't got that swing. Do I. You know, like, he just really likes that jazz. But yeah, I thought that was funny. It was kind of like Moses, or not Moses. It was like Moses, when he like with the angel of death is gonna like kill every firstborn of the Egyptians, everybody in the land, and then the Jews have to put like the blood of the lamb over the door. So he's like, oh, you're cool. I'll just kill all the other people's kids.
You're cool. You're cool. Kill them. You're cool.
Yeah. Your kid's okay. Your kid's okay. Your kid fucking dead. Your kid okay. You know, so it was like that, but with jazz, which I appreciate more. I think, you know,
I don't.
No lambs had to die. You know what I'm saying? So, or children for that matter. But yeah, so I just thought it was funny that he was like, oh yeah, we're gonna have jazz. And you better play jazz or else. And I just thought that was a weird. Like, why would you put that in a note? And then the newspaper was like, well, it must have been him because no one died,
obviously,
and everybody was playing jazz that night. So like, so I was like, okay, all right, we'll see.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, and then the funny thing was like, what do you do if you don't have a record player? You're just like, I'm singing
out the window. Ah,
yeah. You be the horns, I'll be the drums, and we'll just there you go. I got something in my front pocket for you. I don't know, whatever the jazz is back then. Just when the Saints go marching in, just
everybody just
whatever the Dixieland stuff, make something up, you know. So I just thought it was a fun like weird thing that the newspapers, they're just trying to sell papers like always. This fake media. That's what it is.
All that fake news. It's always been fake.
Yeah, they're just printing fake letters, trying to razzle up the people, and then like they're also like saying like, oh, see, jazz is bad because this murderer likes jazz and stuff, and so you know they're just stoking the fires.
Just hating on jazz.
They're just hating everything. So, but like, I mean, that was pretty much the main stuff of this book. It was like we didn't hit every part or whatever, but it was just like a fun read. It was a pretty short read. It was like 83 pages. So
yeah.
And then we should talk about the art because like we did it a little bit in the other one, the original like the third episode we did on H.H. Holmes. But like Rick Geary has a very like it's cartoonish, but it's also like really well done line art that's black and white. He's like truly like a master of like black and white stuff, I think. So
yeah, I mean he can have like those different like intensities of black and white on this page, and particularly like you said when it's like bloody and like the axe is covered in blood or like there's blood coming down from someone's head, like it's not graphic because of the way that.
But it doesn't feel too like you get like oh okay,
yeah, I get like,
about
this guy, yeah, this guy's got his head cracked open, but you don't like. You're not feeling overly grotesque about it.
Yeah. It's not like brains are coming out or something.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, he's fantastic at it. And one of the things I like, you really mentioned it before, and so I picked up at it more on this one, is I really like I like the literal art that he puts in as far as like the maps and like the kind of the areas of where things happen to kind of put it more in that.
It really like sets
context,
you in there, you know, like oh, I know the history of this place now. And I know like what he thought was important to mention. So now when we're talking about these things, I'm like, oh, okay, like I kind of follow it better. I feel like I'm in New Orleans.
Yeah,
like,
that's one of the images I use for our thing. You guys will see is that I picked up one of the maps where it shows like the area where they all are. And especially for true crime, I really appreciate that because it really puts that perspective on it. Like, oh, damn, like these all
Right here,
happen
yeah.
right here, right in your face. Like if you go to New Orleans, you can go to these places where this happened
Yeah.
and like get that sense of. I mean, New Orleans already has that rich history, like they show in the beginning, and then this deep, seedy underground of like these murders happening.
Right. Well, that's the other thing. If you go to New Orleans, there's true crime tours you can take and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So that's. I think they've gone over. I'm sure they went to one of the Axeman murders or something.
I'm sure they did. I know they went to several, and I know they did La Lurie's house.
Yeah.
And that's one thing for sure. I will say if you ever go to New Orleans because you have some interest in the history and culture of it, other than the delicious food, specifically like some of those night
Or drinking on the street.
that too. But the actual like historical tours that they do there, A, because of the architecture, and B, because of the history, like they take you to the spots and you really get that feel of like, oh wow, like
a lot of stuff has happened here.
Yeah,
like a lot
of stuff.
Also, go on alligator tours. That was fun.
That was fun. Do the swamp tour.
We were like, we don't want to go to the city. We should go to the swamp tour. So we did that too, and then you get to feed marshmallows to alligators, which is fun. I didn't know that alligators like marshmallows. So
alligators like marshmallows.
But yeah, so yeah, I mean, it was back to the comic. It was cool the way, like you said, he sets up all this history and everything in the book, and like so that you feel grounded in everything that he's talking about with these murders. And if you get lost, if you're like, wait, which one was this? You can go back to the map and be like, oh, he pointed out on the map where this specific one was in relation to the other ones, so you can see where like this Axeman was, like where his territory was and stuff. So, or at least what they thought the Axeman's territory was. So yeah, it was very interesting. But that's pretty much it. And then of course we didn't know this until the end of it, but they never caught the Axeman. So he still might be out there whistling his jazz. I call him the Jazz Man too because it's on accident. But yeah, like he likes jazz, so I just say that.
He's definitely still out there.
Yeah, he's definitely out there. If every time you whistle Dixieland or whatever jazz, he'll show up.
Well, there's all that supernatural voodoo in New Orleans too. So who knows?
It's like Candyman.
Who knows?
Instead of saying Candyman in a mirror, you sing like when the Saints
go marching in a mirror 3 times.
Yeah, and then he'll show
but
up.
But only if it's the whole song. So
yeah,
if you don't do the whole thing, you're okay.
The whole song. It's a lot longer. It takes a lot more commitment for that ghost story.
But that's why it's important. Like if you do the whole thing, well, he's like, okay, I guess I'm coming. You did it 3 times.
You must really want to die, or have someone die. Yes.
Anyway,
so on that note, John, what would you give this one?
I like it now. I like that we we haven't hit him as much, but I love true crime, and I really like.
Unfortunately, there's not too many true crime stories out there. That are like in graphic novel form. We did like the best ones already. So like that was the problem is we should have started with like shittier ones that we could work our way up to the better ones. But if you like true crime and you haven't heard we did the H. Holmes episode that we did in episode 3. We did the Green River Killer, which was a fantastic one. Who apparently I fucked up and I call him John Ridgway the whole time. And apparently his name was Gary Ridgway, which I knew, but
yeah, we both knew. But I think it's because my name's John, and so like we were talking. Sometimes that happens.
It was that, and then also I think there is another person named John Ridgway in something else, or I don't know. Like somehow I got it confused in my head, and we got called out on YouTube for it. So I was like, yeah, I know his name is Gary, not John, but I called him John. My bad.
We're not going back and recording the whole episode.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go back and say John. Or Gary. Every time
just
I say
re-record that every time.
Gary.
Anyway, long story short, we like true crime, and if you guys like it too, and if you have suggestions of maybe ones you've read, let us know that.
Yeah, let us know because we don't know everything that's like out there.
Yeah,
so.
Or if there's certain stories maybe that you do want to hear, like maybe you haven't read it, but you're like, oh, I heard this was out there. Let us know because there might be some cool things we could do. Maybe some specials if we find something in particular. If it's not like a really long one or something, but yeah, just let us know. Yeah,
and so what would you give this one, John?
Well, I like you were saying, I like his art, and I like the context that he puts it in, and the groundedness, like you were saying. And it's a fun, quick read, and like you said, it's that true. Like I didn't know about this beforehand, and that's new, cool information. I'm like, oh man, that's wild. Like I like those kind of stories. Yeah.
That's hip.
It's a jazz. So I would say I would probably give this an 8. it's a good solid story. It's a good read. It was fun. It
Art's
some new
great.
information. The
Yeah.
art is great. Yeah, it's like you said. I could probably give this to a teenager if they're starting to get into that stuff and be like, you want a cool thing that's not like too like in your face. Like check this one out. It's really fun.
Yeah, it's something that I think, like, you literally, like, if I was a history teacher or something in middle school, I'd be like, check this book, this set of books out, kids, because it's like something kids want to read about because it's like, ooh, murder or whatever. You know, it's like, oh, it's like interesting, and then like it's drawn really well, so you get like really good art, you get really good like historical background on stuff. When he like even in the H.H. Holmes one, he went into the whole like
the diagram of the house.
Yeah, the diagram of the house, and also like how Chicago was set up for like the World's Fair or whatever that thing was going on with the lights and all that. They're like the light expose or whatever the fuck it was called. So, yeah, like he went into the history of all that too, and then the history of like H.H. Holmes before Chicago. So it wasn't just Chicago. So you knew, hey, he wasn't just a bad guy in Chicago. Like he was ripping people off and murdering people just from small amounts of money and stuff, and then ended up being like, you know what, money's cool, murdering's funner. And so yeah, he does a really good job of storytelling, and yeah, I'm gonna give this one an 8 too. I feel like that's like every one of his books I feel would be an 8, like unless the story is nothing I cared about or something, you'd be like, why did he write about this? But I thought this source material was interesting, especially with the New Orleans aspect of it, since we've been there. Yeah, if you guys like true crime, and then also like I think there's 15 of these books or something. He's got a lot of the Victorian ones and the 20th century ones, and they're all like solid short reads. You can learn a little bit from them, read it in like an hour, and be like, cool, now I know that, or so it's like for what they are, they're perfect for what they are, kind of thing. Like you're not getting the super in depth stuff, but he did cite sources and stuff, so he definitely did his history or his like research on stuff. He had like a bibliography at the front, which I was like, oh wow, that's crazy. I didn't I didn't think you would have that, but yeah. So I give it 8. John give it an 8. Anything else you want to hit before we go?
No, I think that was a good summary.
All right. If you guys got any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can email us at Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word, at gmail.com.
And don't forget our YouTube channel for exclusive content. We've also got our Twitter and our Instagram. Check us out.
And the Facebook.
And the Facebook.
And I guess we'll see you next time.
On the next one.
Oh, real quick before next week, we're reading. Yeah, before we leave. Next week, we're going to read Black Sad, which is a French noir comic book that's anthropomorphic cat detective, basically. So if you guys want to read along or just have us spoil it, catch that one next week.
Black Sad.
Yeah, Black Sad.
We'll see you on the next one.
See ya. Well, folks, hope you enjoyed that episode.
If you did and you'd like to follow us on social media, our Facebook is Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, and our Instagram is @Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word.
And be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more recommendations to add to your weekly pull list.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.